Hey, what's up, Logos Personal Finance students? It is Friday, July 10th, 2020, day 72 overall of our e-learning experience, and happy Friday for the last time this school year. It is the last Friday of the school year, last Friday of the term. We are wrapping up the second to last week of the term. That's right. This time next week, you will officially be on your summer break. You will officially be done with the 2019-2020 school year. We got one more week to go. We got today, and then we got Monday through Thursday next week, and that's it. So kudos to those of you who have been sticking with it the whole time, doing the hard work, keeping up on the Econ Lowdown. If you haven't been completely keeping up, that's okay too. You still got a week to get caught up, still got a week to do some work to earn credit for the term. But we want to keep it rolling all the way through next Thursday. Let's go ahead and keep it rolling today. See what's on the agenda for Econ Lowdown. See what's up on Blackbaud. Let's go ahead and open up our Blackbaud. As always, we see the e-learning instructions on our class bulletin board, and we see the note about the Zoom meeting. We had that Zoom meeting yesterday. It was a good Zoom meeting, even though it was, kind of lightly attended. Still, quality over quantity. Great to see those of you who were in the Zoom meeting and hear from you. We do have one more Zoom meeting for the term and for the school year next Thursday, so put that on your calendar. I hope to see everybody in that last Zoom meeting. That'll be the last thing we'll be doing in this class on next Thursday. But everything else, as always, is done through that econlowdown.org website. I love this website. I think it's just so informative, and the activities are easy to understand. And a lot of these concepts, when we cover them in personal finance, aren't that easy to understand. But I like the way that the Econ Lowdown website presents them. I think it's a good way to kind of wrap your head around some pretty complex topics. And I like that I can, as a teacher, use the different lessons that are already there, but then also kind of create some of my own stuff and tailor fit it for us, right? So that it fits our class. It's not a one size fits all. So St. Louis Federal Reserve runs this website, and kudos to them for all the work that they've done to make this possible for us. So let's go ahead and log in using our student code and password, and we see Personal Finance Term 6, and we see, as we scroll from the top on down, all the work we've been working on. We've been answering questions about what we want to be when we grow up, what our plan is for after high school, how we're going to pay for what we do after high school, whether it's financial aid or student loans, how much money we plan on making at our job once we're done with school, how we pay our taxes on that money we make, how we spend that money we make and make a plan for it called a budget, right? You need a budget so you can understand how to pay all your bills. The biggest bill for most people is rent, right? But then also you have other bills like your smartphone and your food and your electricity and all the other utilities. And hopefully part of your budget is putting a little bit away for savings in a bank account, which we all should have. If you don't have one now, go and get one, right? If you're under 18, you need your parents' help getting one. And if your parents won't help you get one, as soon as you turn 18, you go get one yourself. Because as we've learned, there's no good reason not to have a bank account. And again, it's a good idea to start saving now because that money will grow with interest and it will be there when you need it. We have a budget, we have a plan for spending, but there will always be unexpected expenses that come up at some point, right? And that's why they talk about having a nest egg or a rainy day fund. What these funds are is it's money you're putting in the bank, and it's an emergency fund, right? It's for an expense that you weren't expecting that can be several $100s sometimes, several $1,000s. What kind of expenses could be that big that you don't expect? Your car can break down, right? There can be an accident. There could be a fire. You could get sick, right? You can get hurt. You can lose your job, right? And then you don't have income. Well, just because your income goes away, your bills don't go away, right? And until you find another job, how are you going to pay your bills? That's what an emergency fund is for things like that. And the reason why it's good to have that is because if you don't have an emergency fund and you do have to pay, unexpected expenses and you don't have the money to do it, you got to borrow that money. You got to go into debt. And, it's not the end of the world to have to go into debt. It's not the end of the world, to have debt, but it can be very stressful, right? When you owe people money, it's a stressful thing, especially when you don't have the money to pay it back. And if you don't pay it back, if you borrow money and don't pay it back, that can negatively impact something known as your credit score. And that's what the lesson for today is all about. Do you know your credit score? What is your credit score? Why do I care, right? Well, let's take a look at it. Let's launch this and see. What is a credit score? And why does it matter? And what's a good score, right? And how do you avoid a bad score? Well, I just answered that last part. How do you avoid a bad score? Pay your bills on time. If you borrow money, pay it back. Simple as that. That makes your score go up, right? If you have never borrowed money and you don't have any credit, you're not going to have a high credit score, but you're not going to have a low credit score, right? It's going to be kind of in between. You have to build up that credit to get a high credit score. The only way you can do that is borrowing money and paying it back. Paying your bills on time, paying your rent, paying your mortgage. And again, you can have negative impacts on your credit if you don't pay your bills on time, if you don't pay back money that you owe on time. So what is the range, are you asking? What's a good credit score? Is 11 a good credit score? Is 3,000 a good credit score? What is a good credit score? Well, here's a handy chart, right? It's a 3-digit number, right? And don't ask me where they came up with this range, but the 3-digit numbers, this is the range, right? So you go from poor, which can be in the 300s, all the way up into the 500s, right? That's not a credit score you want to have. Ideally, you want to have something above 700, right? You can see above 700 is on the good half, right? And so anything below 700 is not ideal, right? And again, if you're just starting out, you're not going to be above or below, right? You're going to be just kind of somewhere in the middle. And then depending on your choices and your decisions and how well you manage your money, you can go this way, good, or this way, bad. And again, what is this credit score all about? Why does it matter? Because it affects your ability to borrow money in the future. Every time you try to borrow money, the people loaning you money will look at your credit score. And if they don't like what they see, they won't lend you the money, right? And that's where you get into trouble, like we talked about with the payday lenders and the pawn shops. People who go to payday lenders and pawn shops are people who have low credit scores, and they can't go to the bank and get a loan. They can't get a credit card because their credit score is so low, right? You don't want to be in that position, right? Ideally, you have a nest egg, you have an emergency fund, and you never have to borrow money. But in the real world, sometimes we have to borrow money. And that's where you want to have a good credit score, because it will allow you to borrow the money that you need when you need it, but it'll also allow you to borrow it at a lower interest rate. The higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate. So that's important too, because in the long run, that costs you less money, the less interest that you pay. So answer that question about credit scores. Again, if you don't know your credit score, if you don't have a credit score, that's okay. There's no right or wrong answer. Just make sure you submit an answer so that you get those free points, bring that grade up. And that's the goal for the next week. We're going to try and get these grades as high as possible by the end of the term. And that includes even if you haven't done any work yet. Let's work hard for this last week, and we will work on earning everybody that wants credit for the term. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns for me, please let me know. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and we will see you next week for the last week of the term. Peace.